Slight 12. It follows.
It follows.
It does. How'd you like it, Shep? What'd you think?
I didn't watch this one, so didn't get
Hey,
to
it
it.
happens. It happens. We're a couple of busy fellas. We
It
can't we
follows and
can't
it
watch them all.
happens.
It happens should just be the title of our entire endeavor trying to do the Chase and Shep show. It happens. It
It does
happens.
happen. So tell me, Chase, what happens? And it follows.
Well, let me tell you. It Follows is a movie about a sexually transmitted ghost. When I heard that for the first time, I was like, interesting. Um, I believe this movie came out in 2015. Uh, I had just moved to Tennessee when this movie dropped, and I took a friend of mine to go see it in theaters, and she's not like a big horror movie person, like let alone a horror movie like this. Um, and she ended up really liking it too. And I remember just thinking it was beautifully done. Like it's a very beautifully shot movie, and it's very clearly inspired by John Carpenter. Like there's a lot of just like the way it's shot, the way it's scored. Like it's very like Halloween esque, like OG Halloween, and you definitely get those John Carpenter vibes. Um, and it's cool because like you never really know what time period it is. Like they do a pretty good job of like really like confusing you as to like the location and time of this film, because it's like there are things in it where you're like, oh well, it must be modern day, but then at the same time like everybody has landlines, and like some of the clothes they wear are kind of retro, so it's like this weird little like time capsule kind of movie where it could literally just be any time. um and with the concept of a sexually transmitted ghost, there's definitely a certain way this movie could have gone. And surprisingly, for a movie that's like about that, it's like it does a pretty decent job of like not sexualizing its characters. Like it's not a sexy movie. Like, it really doesn't like hone in on the sex like that. It's just a part of the story. Like it's just how that ghost travels from person to person. And it is one of those things that when the main character does uh, receive the ghost, that's what we should start calling it from now on. What'd you do last night? Oh, I received the ghost, But he does it and then like chloroforms her and all this shit, and then she wakes up like tied to a wheelchair and all this shit. And in my head, I'm like, I feel like you could have done this another way. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you didn't really need to like tie her up and shit. I think you could have just told her, like, oh, by the way, you're gonna start being followed by this entity that like only you can see, um, and that's what kind of makes it creepy. Is like this thing when you do see it, it's just all it does is just walk. It just walks in a straight line right at you. It follows like that's what it does. And so sometimes in the background of scenes, you can see like characters that are just walking directly at the characters, and like it's done to create like anxiety in the audience where it's like, is that the thing, or is it like sometimes it's obvious because it's like something's out of place, they look like they're like kind of dead sometimes, but sometimes they look like normal people, and you're just like, is it following, is it coming to get you? um yeah, I mean, it's a concept that could have easily been super ridiculous, and they did it pretty well.
Good on them.
Um, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's a cool little throwback movie. I feel like to those '80s slasher movies, sort of, but also with the little supernatural
Oh yeah.
twist. Um, Trying to see if there's any fun facts here for you. Ah, right here. The time frame of the movie is intentionally kept undefined so that it resembles a dream. Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. Makes sense.
I can vibe with that.
It definitely has a dreamlike quality to it, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of facts here that sound very fun. But I do know that I don't know if it's still going to happen or not. But I know when this movie came out, the director was asked about a sequel, and he says, I know what I would do for a sequel. He's like, just take the title and flip it. He says it would just be like the characters of the original movie would be hunting it down in the second. I was like, that I mean, it's interesting. I'd have to see it to like know if it's really a good idea or not. Uh, it can be slow too. This is a movie that depending on your taste in movies, this one can kind of be a little slow paced at times because a lot of it is built on paranoia and things you can't see. I actually thought about it when I was watching it today that it kind of reminded me of like slashers like Halloween where you don't know who's under the mask. Like it's just this entity. You don't really know what's after you. And that's kind of what this feels like because it always looks different. Like when you do see the it that follows, like it always looks like a different person. Uh, but then you see it from the perspective of like her friends, and they don't see shit. They don't see anybody. There's nothing there. And yeah, I mean it's definitely a creepy concept. And
Yeah.
basically, if it kills, like if you got it from somebody else and it kills you, then it'll just go right back to going after the last person and just work its way down the line. So yeah, you thought crabs were bad. I thought herpes was bad.
This is something else.
Yeah, don't have sex, kids. You'll get haunted and die. So, what's your score, Shep? What do you think? Based off what I told you, you don't know. Bless you,
Woo!
bless you, my child. Good
Having
lord.
the windows open has its downside this time of year.
It'd
And
be
it's
harvest
allergies.
season. Oh yeah, yesterday I was in the same boat as you, my dude. I could not stop sneezing to save my life. I'd give it an
And
8
it
out of 10. I'd give it an
feels
8 out
good.
of 10. Actually,
I was gonna say 6.5, 7 probably is what
I
I'd
was
give
gonna
it.
say I might drop it down to a 7.5 actually because it's one that I still think it's a good movie. I think the rewatch on it is not as hefty as it could be. I think it's one that like I dig rewatching it with somebody who's never seen it before, but it's also one that I feel like I've seen enough times. Like it's not one that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm jonesing to watch It Follows again. I'll listen to the soundtrack because the score is like it's pretty baller. Um, like I said, it's got that old school Halloween vibes to it. But yeah, so I'll go 7.5 because the rewatchability on it is kind of low for me.
Low.
So low. 7.5 out of 10. Slay 12.
That
It
potential.
follows. Just like you should follow us. Uh, Facebook.com/ChaseandShep. ChaseandShep.com, where you can find all of these things. And, everywhere else that ChaseandShep.com will take you to.
You know it. We're all over the place. Find us.
We out here.
Smooches and deuces, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow for the 13th slide.
Ooh.